In this exercise, we're going to take that linear gradient that I just got done converting to a gradient mesh object, and we're going to modify it so that we create a kind of tabletop effect in the background. I've called my progress file streamlinedmeshobject.ai because that's what it is. After all that work, we finally streamlined the linear gradient mesh. Now then, let's make some quick and easy modifications here using the white arrow tool. So I'll go ahead and grab that direct selection tool. And I will click on this pale yellow point right there and shift click on the one on the opposite side. And I'm just going to lift that row divider line so it falls midway into the stem on the left-hand pepper. And I'm also going to change the color. I'll go up to the color panel, switch to HSB, since Illustrator's seen fit to switch me to RGB. And then I'm going to change the colors like so. I'm going to change the hue value pretty radically to 180 degrees, which is cyan. And then an S value of 35 is fine. And actually, a B value of 85% is fine as well. So that's the color I'm looking for. Now I'm going to click and shift click, that is click, and shift click on the two topmost points. And I'm going to check out their color. And everything's fine here except for the saturation value, which I'm going to raise to 20%, just to add a little bit of saturation to that sky or that sun overhead or whatever it is. And this line I think is fine. I'm going to go ahead and click here and shift click here just to check out what the colors are. And we've got 190, 35, and 70 approximately, and that's just fine. And then I'm going to add another row and a couple of columns. And I'm going to do that using my mesh tool. So I'll go ahead and grab that tool and I'll click right about, well, gosh, I've got Bezier control handles in the way on both sides. So I'll control click or command click up here on this segment, just so that the control handles go away, so that I can add a row at this location. And I want that row to appear right about there, I think. So we got this wonderful sloping line, which I wasn't interested in the least. So you know what? I'll press Control R or Command R on a Mac to bring up my rulers. I'll drag down a guideline from the top ruler. And then I'll go ahead and align it with that point, which is where I want it to be at. And using my white arrow tool, which I'll get by pressing the A key, I'll grab this point right there and I'll drag it up while pressing the Shift key so that it snaps into place. And you know what? Still doesn't look like this line is straight. So I'll go ahead and drag this one down a little bit and then Shift drag it back up so that it snaps into place as well. And it'd be really great if everything was snapping properly, but well, this looks pretty good. I'll just accept that. So now I'll go up to the View menu and I'll go ahead and choose Guides, and I'll choose Clear Guides because I don't want that thing there. I want it to go away. All right, now I'm going to switch back to the mesh tool and I want to add those columns. So I'm going to go ahead and click at this location along the tabletop. This is more or less the tabletop right here. Tabletop actually falls a little bit above it, as you can see. But I'll go ahead and click at this point in order to add a column line. And I'll click at this point as well, right about there, I think, to add another column line. And that looks pretty good. And now I'll take this point right there, the new point I just created, and shift click on the other side of the tabletop. And I'll go ahead and change the color here inside the color panel, which is switch back to RGB. I don't care. I'm going to change it back to white by clicking on this little white swatch here inside the color panel. And then I'll go ahead and grab these 2 points, the outermost points along this sort of tabletop line. So I'll click on one, shift click on the other, and I'm going to shift drag them down like this in order to create that tabletop line. Now, unfortunately, we have a kind of bell-shaped curve that's created by our control handles here, and we don't want that. So I'm going to take this control handle and drag it into the point. You're going to have to be careful about that so that you don't end up doing this kind of number too much. So just drag it into the anchor point to make it go away, and drag this point into its anchor point to make it go away, and drag this point into its anchor point to make it go away, and then here's the fun one. Go ahead and drag this anchor point into this one to make a mess of things. So we do have a control handle problem. As you can see, we've got this control handle that's controlling this segment that for some reason decided to take a vacation and go to the left side of the image. Don't understand that one at all because it's very repeatable and it only happens with that point. But anyway, let's go ahead and drag it back to the other side since we're having such an awesome time. And I'll press the Shift key as I do so in order to constrain that control handle so it's exactly horizontal. All right, so now we have this quick transition from white to blue, which is exactly what we want. Believe it or not, we've actually completed this effect. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here, a couple of clicks. so that we can take in our peppers sitting on their little tabletop, and I'll press Control-R, Command-R on the Mac in order to make those rulers go away. And I just love this effect because it's nice and diffuse, and it looks like the tabletop is extending beyond the field of focus, which is perfect. That way the peppers are nice and sharp in the foreground. In the next exercise, we're going to take on these radial gradients that are serving as shadows, and believe it or not, it's going to take a lot less work than what we've done so far.